action taken yet. Item number 8 is to consider an act on approval of the Orange Playhouse and Media Studio. It's Richard Knight and company here, I know. Chris Williams is with him. Yoshiko is back there hiding. She's applauding. Oh, everybody gets one?
Everyone gets one.
You guys have to share over there.
Those are architectural drawings done by Mr. Chris Williams, the architect, who has been instrumental in helping me put this project together. I'm talking about an Orange Playhouse and a media studio to be built behind the High Plains Community Center. Night Productions would cover all costs of construction, maintenance, et cetera, et cetera. I myself am a producer of environmental documentaries. I would continue to do that in the media studio. I had passed out this package to you selectmen, except Mr. Marino, who was unavailable at the time.
No, he was hopping around.
I had also, I passed out about 30 of these to all town members of departments, the Orange Players, Pat Miller and Bonnie Coppola, the Arts Council, Dr. Tucker of the Land Trust, other people. I think it's high time that Orange has a playhouse for the Orange Players. They're the second oldest community theater in Connecticut. They've had to have their plays and productions at different venues, from High Plains to Amity to University of New Haven. I am a producer of environmental documentaries. I like to combine the building, so I maintain a media studio. It would be a 2-story barn-like structure to fit in with the ambience of the town. I don't know if you can all see that there. We're talking about a footprint of about 150 feet by 200 feet. From the studio, I would also have, due to technology these days, satellite dishes for distribution. Now, these are not the huge dishes that used to be. These dishes are 3 to 4 feet, just a couple that would be hidden from view by architectural design. I think I'd like to offer for the people, the students of the area in Amity, those who are interested in this type of endeavor as a career. I myself went to California with just a suitcase and lived there for 15 years. I had my own comedy club. I did produce comedy shows. I produced commercials and films. I know how to do this, and with the conjunction of the Orange Players and the Arts Council, the building would have an area for a conference room for our arts councils, and also to share it with the other towns at a reasonable rate, just to share it. I think I'm looking for your enthusiastic approval for this. It would not cost the town anything. I would like to make it a green building utilizing solar panels for heat. Any excess power generated, I would give freely to the town, most likely High Plains Community Center being the closest. I think it's well worth the idea and the effort, and I'm willing to do it. I can do it, I can afford to do it, and I know how to do it. I would not interrupt anything that the Orange Players have in mind in terms of their productions, their casting, any of that. I would continue to do my environmental documentaries. Pursuant to that would be the Bridgewater terminal that's planned for Long Island Sound, one of our major resources. I think that we all deserve reliable environmental information. Now, there's a consensus that there is something wrong with our world environment, and I would like to produce those films and documentaries so the word gets out. We are basically talking. Here you can see the parking lot. Again, I would like to make that a gravel if possible. Now, Mr. Williams would be happy to answer your questions, and then I would be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. I'll just give a very brief description of what we're proposing, because right now it's in a very preliminary stage, and to really talk about this location in detail, we'd have to get some more survey information, probably have a surveyor go out and survey this area. But the overall concept is to place the building at the edge of the roadway that now encircles the back lawn behind the High Plains Community Center, and to utilize that roadway as an aisle for some parking, so that parking would be on either side of the roadway. The building itself would be approximately 50 by 100 foot footprint, a 5,000 square foot footprint. It would be entered on the upper level from the roadway level, and because the ground slopes away, the second story would actually be the lower story, and would be sort of like a walkout basement, so to speak, from the lower story. This this depiction here shows a delivery entrance for props and things like that going down to the lower level and accessing it that way. We're envisioning a maximum capacity of about 150 seats, and because the use is not a very intensive use, shows are put on several times a year. According to the state health regulations, we did some very preliminary calculations, and the amount of area taken up for a possible septic system would be minimal. It's shown in that dotted line there where it's called drain field. Of course, before we could really speak about that in any detail, we would have to get into some perk tests and soil tests and have an engineer size the system. But it's not a very intensive use, so therefore we're not envisioning disturbing very much land. The overall footprint of 100 by 150 feet really talks about the entire disturbance of the land on this side of the east side of the roadway, basically, when you include the building, some driveways, and the area for the septic system. The barn-like structure would have the long dimension facing south to take advantage and to maximize the exposure for the solar panels, which would be on the roof that would be oriented towards the south. That's why you see the shape of the building being perpendicular to the road. South is in this direction pretty much. And the parking preliminary calculation with the zoning regs is about 40 parking spaces, one per every 4 seats in the theater, and then a few for employees. And that's what's depicted pretty much along here. Sorry, I don't know if I'm using this thing right.
That's all right, you're okay.
Just to give you a little bit of an orientation, I'm sure most of you people know where it is, but the cell tower is currently right here. So you come down the roadway, you see the cell tower, you pass it, and that's where we're proposing it. Now, keep in mind, we will need to do some survey work and have an engineer look at this. And when we do that, after we do that, we may have some other recommendations in terms of shifting the building slightly and, locating it in a more exact spot. If there's any questions about.
Questions from the table? Who's first?
What are you actually looking for this evening? An approval for the concept of the idea?
Yes.
Because obviously we don't have a full makeup of the as you stated earlier.
Right.
So you're looking for an approval for the concept, but not necessarily approval for the land itself.
Right.
For that
I
use.
think to get more, to give us some idea of should we move forward, should we go and start expending the funds, hiring a surveyor, an engineer. The whole idea of putting the building on town property is basically we're looking for some, support for that. And obviously, a more complete approval would be site plan approval with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the town engineer and all that. We wouldn't expect you to, say, go ahead and build whatever you'd like there. No, that's not where we're at.
Selectman Okenquist.
I have a few questions. Number one is, who is going to fund and build the building?
Night Production,
Knight Productions, okay? Who will maintain the building?
Night Production.
You provide all of the maintenance, the town
Yes,
will
sir.
incur no cost, as you say in
sir.
your proposal. Okay. Who will own the building?
That will be decided. Now, whatever is fair, what works, there are certain entities as the Visiting Nurses Association and Chamber of Commerce who now rent from the town and town buildings. I am more than willing to do what it takes. If I quit claim the building to the town and then rent the space, as long as Night Productions would have their media studio in perpetuity or whatever we agree on. I'm basically looking to find an approval to say, yes, go ahead and spend money on a site test and soil test and surveys and all that. But I would cover, and Night Production would cover all maintenance and construction costs.
Okay. Who will pay for the insurance on the building?
That, I am willing to do that.
Okay.
The town owned it, the town would
The
have
town-
to cover it.
I would think so.
If there was some sort of quit claim, I'm willing to share that cost. If, the town took it upon themselves to pay it, I'm willing to do what it takes. With 13,000 of the residents, this is our town. I'd like to help our town.
Okay. And I applaud that. Don't get me wrong. I noticed your diagram, and I question a couple things. One being the traffic when you have a production. The roadway is really set up for one lane of traffic.
Yeah, in the area where the parking would be, we would have to make that two-way traffic to give people enough maneuverable room to maneuver their cars in and out. Basically, that's like a 24-foot wide roadway. Because the nature of events here, single events, 6 times, 10 times a year, you're going to get an influx of people that come in, they park, they go to the event, they'd come out, and they'd leave. No different, but much less intense than any other events that are held at High Plains, such as fireworks, the fair, anything like that.
Well, at that time, the back road is opened, and people exit down to Lambert Road.
Right.
I don't think they would probably want to do that during the productions. It means moving those huge rocks down by Lambert Road and the log down there, and it probably could be done. It's
Maybe a gate could be built in its place. It would be easier to move.
Possible, sure. The other question I have is, and I know this is just a concept, but I'm looking at the ball field and the parking lot. Seems very close.
You mean a home run might break somebody's car window? Is
Foul
that what you're
balls,
worried about?
Foul balls, or just kids running around, with a lot of parking down there. It's just something that I think we have to think about.
Right.
I
The productions would be at night for the Orange players,
Right.
so
Right.
I wouldn't think the kids would be playing ball. But as this also offers all the facilities that the town already offers, some people may use the pool or the tennis courts or ball fields or the pavilions, have a picnic,
Sure.
then they go to the play.
Yeah, keep in mind, this map was prepared
it's-
partly from a Google aerial photograph and partly from an old map that Ed Lieberman gave us. And really, we have to do some survey work. That ball field may, in fact, not be quite that close, but
Okay.
obviously that issue would have to be addressed.
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just trying to bring out some things.
No,
just by-
there's a lot of
by
things we
looking
have
at
to
what
think
you're-
about.
You're doing.
Yeah.
Because it is a major addition to the High Plains area. And there are a lot of things such as the septic system
Right.
That would have to be
That's
put
better.
in. The location there, very close to the wooded area, there's been vandalism down there before. You're very close, kids come in from the back and so on. So I think you have to be aware of that also.
Right.
Sure, of course.
So, yeah, those are the things I've come up with, so.
Selectman Nastri.
I think this is a little different than visiting nurses, so just as a comment. Visiting nurses is a bona fide town department that is budgeted, and the funds they collect go into the general fund.
I did not
Yeah,
know that.
Yeah, so it is a bona fide town department. This concept would be different unless, of course, it became a town function.
Maybe we could create a theater department for the town, or something like that.
Well, you kind of have that with, that senior leadership group and all that. I
Right.
think you have met with them. You do kind of have that, the edge of that group already, truly. They're a great group. They've worked hard. They've put this together, and, their project of trying to find a spot, I should say, you've put this together. I think it goes hand in hand, the two groups, very well. I have a couple concerns, the parking and whatnot in relation to the septic that's currently for the school building. I know where it is, and I think you're close there with part of the parking.
Yeah, we'll
I'm-
have to locate that more
Yeah.
precisely.
And I'm not sure, I think this is it's a tremendous idea for the town, actually. I don't know if it's quite big enough with 150 seats. I don't know, and this is something we have to give some research to and thought to, and I know Ed Tucker's here, who can shed some light on that, but I know that is the Odie Nature Center, part of it. It's about, see, I don't know where and what they
Right.
consider part of it and not, and so that's questions that I can't answer at this time. But I think somewhere in the community, and this is a very good first attempt, and it's a great possibility here, but we have a bunch of questions that need to be answered. But I think somewhere in the town, and this may be it, or we may, have to work to find another spot. I think it's something that would be very well received by the community, and I think there's probably it would probably get more use than you even realize, and that's why I'm thinking maybe the 150 seats at times would be twice as many as you need, but I think a lot of times it wouldn't be enough. So but it's a great
Well,
kickoff to
again,
it to
this-
get us all thinking on it, Richard.
This is all preliminary. If it turns out that we would need 200 seats, or you
Whatever.
people decide, whatever. The point is, whatever. I'm here to work with everyone to make it happen, and as silly as it seems, I'm here to please everybody. I think everyone can be happy if we all have questions and we are honest about finding answers to them. I think it would be a great endeavor for the town to have. There would be space for conference rooms there if people from other organizations in the town, or the Rotary or whatever, they would be made available. Again, it's the Orange Playhouse is the main point of it, and it's orange.
That's good.
And it fits in, my idea is to make like a barn-like structure to fit it in with the countryside and the ambience of our town.
I think that's very, also very important with this. Mitch, I know you want to say something there.
Just, first of all, Richard, you read your proposal before when you dropped it off, and I appreciate the heads up, as I think we all do. And I am very appreciative, as I think we all are, with your altruism towards the town. My concern tonight is that what you're proposing is something that would be utilized by the arts groups, especially the Orange Players, yet we haven't heard from any of the people who would be the recipients, so to speak, of this as to their support. And I'm a little concerned that we haven't heard from anybody else coming out and saying, this is what we need. This is the type of thing that we want. Because to me, it looks great, but I want to make sure the people that are actually going to utilize, your dream here, really will say this fits our needs. So I think preliminarily, I say, this is a great beginning, and I think, hopefully it works out, but I want to make sure that, and you have a lot of steps to go through, that it works for everybody involved.
As I mentioned, I had talked to Pat Miller of the Orange Players. They are for it. Privately, I've talked to a lot of people, 30 packages, and privately people are for it. I understand there are questions. I have questions. The point of this meeting, as I told Pat, was to present the idea. There was no sense really bothering her until the time it was to bother her. It was my job to present this plan to you people and to give you all a heads up and get hopefully some kind of decision soon or whenever. And then they would be here at the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 10th meeting we have.
I think, Mitch, your thoughts are well taken there. Richard, I don't hear anybody at the table dissenting at this time. I think there are questions that need to be answered as far as siting of it, need of it, sizing of it, those sort of things. Ed Tucker, you're in the room. Do you want to speak on anything to this, or are you just a innocent bystander tonight? Would you like to comment? Sure.
Ed Tucker, 433 Pruden Lane, and Chairman of the Conservation Commission. I met with Richard and, and talked to him about this, and I told him at that time that that location I completely disagree with, because I mean, part of the focus is supposed to be environmental, but what you're going to start out with is cutting a couple acres of trees down, and that doesn't make any sense. I think there's some other questions which you people have to worry about in terms of, is this appropriate on town property and so on. I'm not going to worry about that part of it. But there are other places that one could consider this that to me make much more sense, and some right there. If one goes across the power line over here, there's an area that, except for being mowed once a year for hay, is really not being used at all. And I think that there you could equally well take advantage of the solar energy. You wouldn't have the problem of interfering with the nature area down there. You would be clear of the ball fields that existed. You'd be free of the septic system up there. It would be and there may be a lot of other places in town that you should look to, but certainly this would not be a place that I would agree with at all.
It's an interesting concept over on the other side. I don't know if there's enough room.
Sounds like the right of way, though.
Well, part of it is, but there's land beyond it, but I don't know if there's enough. But that is an interesting concept also.
Jim, in light of Dr. Tucker's comments, is it not appropriate, and Richard, let me ask you this, have you been to the Park and Recreation Commission yet, who usually
I
monitors
talked
this
with
area?
Mr. McGinnis. I gave him a package.
But has it gone to their commission at this point?
No, I don't believe so. No.
I'm not trying to pass the buck, but I'm really wondering whether it really should start with that commission who really looks at the whole outlay of that entire area back there, including the pavilions we were just talking about
All
not
the
too long
areas.
ago.
I
Yeah.
mean, you know.
So, Jim, I don't know what's appropriate at this point. I mean, we all think that the concept is something we'd like to see something done. I think there's a lot of groups. Conservation's one, Park and Rec's gonna be another, especially the ball field quote-unquote interference. Could be some issues with the country fair and other activities back there. Based on what Ed Tucker's just suggested, we have to see where the right-of-way for the power lines is, and I'm not sure we want to even go there based on recent events. So, I just think that there's some other avenues that Richard needs to go through before this board can intelligently give any kind of approval, which is what's on our agenda tonight for approval. Yeah, I hate to give approval to something and have him spin his wheels when there's other groups and organizations that are gonna, throw up their arms and say, what are you guys doing?
Well, there's a possibility it could end up as a multi-purpose type of situation even at Wolf Park. And that would then alleviate the problems while bringing in, it would bring in, we have some issues down there where there's no facilities for parents with children, when they feel the need there. And as far as water, refreshments or something, I mean, once you have a structure there that becomes a use for one purpose, you're bringing in your utilities and all to that facility, and then we would have the opportunity to consider that. That's another potential site. I mean, Old Tavern Road is certainly too congested already, but we do have some other opportunities. I mean, there's a possible site up on the new Edison Road when it gets built that was supposed to be a possible convention center type of situation, where this might fit. There are several other spots available, but I mean, if you want to send it to Park and Rec to evaluate, what are everybody's thoughts on that?
Well, I think they probably
situation.
should take a look at it, but it seems to me that what Richard has proposed is one solution, or we need a broader feasibility study to investigate
Of possible
others, including legal implications and,
Sure.
putting a private building
Sure.
on public property and all that kind of stuff. I would propose that we try to proceed.
I want to keep the ball rolling forward. I'm just not quite sure which avenue to proceed with next. I mean, other sites that are town-owned?
Well, that would have to be included in the feasibility study.
You know-
Other sites, a private site,
I mean, I definitely want to keep this moving forward.
Okay, my point for this site, now I had, before looked at the Showcase Cinemas in Milford that had closed, and I had talked with those people. My point of this place was, I thought it should be in the center of town. It's an Orange Playhouse, also the environmental documentaries and the building itself will serve as an example to other businesses and towns and governments of what Orange is doing for the environment and how we're using solar power and different energy needs. I did not want to go on the post road because I thought, in essence, it'd get lost in all the traffic and all the buildings. I myself personally feel we gave up the post road, but we still have the rest of town. I thought a playhouse of this sort would be important towards the historic center of our town and the facilities that already exist there. My first step, well, this is like the 10th step, besides making the proposals and talking with Mr. Williams and talking with everybody. I talked with Paul Sinise and Mr. McGinnis again. I've talked with Paul Glimmer. I've talked to Pat O'Sullivan. I've talked to everybody in town. I've approached everyone to give them a heads up and to think about it and give me questions, and I'll find the answers. I'm a one and only committee. So I do all the legwork and the hard work and the homework to make it happen. And I'm willing to listen and find an accommodation with the town. Whatever it takes, I'm willing to do.
Do you want me to make the? Selectman Blake.
I believe I would like to be in a position to make a motion that this board approve it in concept. And that way there, at least the ball does keep rolling. And down the road, we'll find answers to all these questions. I'm sure there's going to be many questions, but I think the board, I make a motion that the board approve the concept of the Orange Playhouse by Media Studio.
In the town,
That's correct.
somewhere.
Yes, that's right. Location not determined at this time, if you want to put it that way.
Okay. Do we have a second for discussion purposes? No?
I'll second it.
All right, I have a thought on it as well, and talking over here on this side. I think that I would like to put a committee together, which will be made up of somebody from this committee and several others, and maybe Mr. Grimmer I might even ask to help, with the possibility on this of studying some of the other sites within town and feasibility of it to keep it moving forward. I think that's very important at this time, not to let it just flounder.
Jim, what's your thought about Mr. Knight visiting Park and Recreation Commission, though, first? I mean,
You want him to visit? Okay, Don.
well, I just think that's the process that we have.
Well, they don't, that's if it's on town, just
Well,
some town properties. They don't cover all, but.
But they
you wanna
certainly
send it
cover
to
this
Park and
one,
Rec.
and you've mentioned Fred Wolf Park, too. So, I mean, anything we do at High Plains, anything we do at Fred Wolf Park, for
It involves
instance,
Park and Rec.
would involve them. Certainly, there's no room at Old Tavern. So, I think that,
Track.
I think this is just, a way to start, to look at.
Okay. All right, you want to send it?
I think that would be.
Recommend approve it in concept and send it to Park and Rec to do some evaluation of.
I would think that would be appropriate, yes. I would
right,
like to
that's-
amend Mr. Blake's motion.
That's your whole motion.
Accept the amendment.
Okay. Very good. We have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion at this time? From the audience, from the table? Hearing none. You're approving it in concept at this time and sending it to Park and Rec for consideration first, and then after that, I would put a committee together to keep this rolling. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous. There
Thank
go.
you,
Very
ladies and
good.
gentlemen.
Okay. Next is to consider an act on lifting the $25,000 cap on home improvements for affordable housing. I know Grace Chow is here. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Good evening. My name is Grace Chow, and I would like to ask everybody to excuse my English since it's not my native language. And I'll do my best to answer your questions if you have any. I'm here to request that the board to lift, or I didn't put it down, or to increase the cap of $25,000 for the cost of home improvements for the affordable housing. And I listed 3 reasons in my letter. And the first one, if you have read the letter, you will know that I listed that the quitclaim does not state the cap for home improvement. And the second one, the second reason is that the cap of $25,000 was implanted more than 10 years ago. So since then, the cost of labor and materials, everything have increased greatly. And I also attached some fact sheets, like one for the Chava data of 2006. The home sales price limits for Orange is $347,000. And the Chava data of 2006, income limits for Orange is $81,000. So down the road, I put down from the HUD data. The median income in 1995 was $51,600. And for 2006, it was increased to $76,600. So it's almost like 49% increase. And my third reason, actually, I think is the most important one is, since this affordable housing is owner occupied, it's not rental property. So the property is maintained by homeowners. It's not maintained by the town. So it doesn't like a rental property, the tenants move away, and the town would pay for the expenses to maintain the property. So if people only going to be there for a short period of time and they move out, and I don't think people would be willing to invest to make improvements of the property or the whole neighborhood. That will affect the neighborhood, that will also affect the Orange. It become an eyesore. And I've been living there for more than 10 years, and I care about the neighborhood very much. And my 2 children have grown up in the neighborhood. And I don't think it's a shameful thing to live in one of the affordable housings. But my husband and I, what we like to do is make the house more livable, more comfortable for us. And also, we have done a lot work for the landscaping in the house. And we want the house to look good, also to make a neighborhood look good, and to make us and our children to be proud of where we are. So that's why I'm here to ask that if the board can consider to lift the cap of the $25,000.
Is it $25,000, Grace, total, or Vincent, whichever one of you knows the answer here? Total, or Mitchell, since you were involved in this previous two. Total in the life of ownership of the home, or in any one year, or in what time frame is the $25,000 in improvements allowed? If they live there 25 years, can they only do this once, or tell me?
Based upon the information that we have in front of us, it doesn't speak to that. At the May 98 Selectmen's meeting, the board approved a policy that limited the improvements to $25,000. It didn't limit it in a calendar year, or so we couldn't speak to that. Although at this point, although the minutes do refer to a letter from then town council that were attached to the minutes, but we don't have a copy of that. So I don't know if town council at the time had an opinion on that. But it would be logical to infer that the $25,000 would be per owner, because based upon the nature of the property being an affordable housing house, I believe the goal was to keep it affordable housing. And under the formula to determine what the resale price of the unit is, you would take the cost that the person paid for it, add their cost of improvements, and then you would add an additional 25%, so that they would have a profit, but it would be capped, so to keep it at affordable housing. So by limiting the improvement to $25,000, it would make sense that it would be a per ownership as opposed to a per calendar year or per decade. So I would go out on a limb and say it's a $25,000 per ownership improvement.
Okay,
The intent of the board at the time, was really so that a homeowner could come along and buy it and keep it within the guidelines of affordable housing, but yet at the same time capped on a profit they could make on reselling it. That was really the intent when we came up with this. I was on the board at the time too. The intent was that...
you've been on forever.
That's right, I know. You couldn't take it, improve the property, and make a fortune on it and then move out. So that was really the intent of the cap.
Okay. Well, Selectman Goldblatt made the motion to put this in
Based on
way back in '98, so I want to know what you were thinking when you did it.
I based it on town council's letter, which we don't have a copy of, which was attached to made in part of those minutes. But now that I have the floor, my only, to follow what Joe said, it wasn't just to make a profit or how much profit someone make. It's also because these are truly affordable homes in the town of Orange, and we wanted to make sure they stayed affordable. So that's the major concern, is that someone can put major improvements on and no, it can get out of hand and no longer become affordable. I guess, based on what's been presented to us tonight, Grace, and we appreciate what you've put forward, I'd like to, not in the form of a motion yet, just recommend, she's shown us a lot of data here which shows that the median incomes have gone up 48.5% in the latest Chaffa information. If we were to increase the $25,000 limits by 48.5%, that would bring up to $37,125. I just throw that out to see how the board feels about that becoming a new limit, because if we take the original suggestion and just lift the cap, we endanger ourselves, I think, Mr. Town Attorney, into these homes no longer becoming affordable. And that's my concern.
I would agree with that.
Selectman Nash.
As I understand it, there's really a two-step cap here. One is the cap on home improvement, and then there's another cap allowing 25% profit on the amount. So a person pays $100,000 for a house, they can make it go up to $125,000, and then they could get 25% on top of that. So you really have a two-step cap right now. So is there, and then I understand the thrust here is to keep the houses affordable. Is there any leeway between those two caps? In other words, if a person wanted to exceed the $25,000 cap, but they still could not exceed the 25 plus 25 cap.
Well, you could increase the $25,000 in home improvement cap if you want, but not change the 25% resale afterwards.
What I'm saying is reduce the 25% based on the increase in the home improvement cap. As an option. In other words, if you had started out with 100 and you got 125 with the improvement, then what's 25% on top of that? That would be the cap.
May I say something? Because the maximum sale price limit is imprinted by the state. So actually, for a house to be qualified as affordable housing, the price has changed every year. Because the state that's why I listed for the Chaffa for 2006, the limit sale price is $347,000. I'm not asking the houses we are occupying now will be reach that price, but I just want to show the difference of our current selling price is far below that limit. So I understand your concern, and it would be a very non-wise investment to add so much additions or put so much money into the house we are occupying now. That's not my question or my request. But my request actually to ask the board to consider. I put a list because it's under the advice of a town employee. But I do believe that the cap should be changed, just like the property reevaluation. It should be changed according to what the state, the rules or policies are. So if anybody is going to put any addition or put more money in and to be out of the range, that will be the owner's loss. I do believe that.
You saying that the limit on those houses is $347,000?
No. I'm saying that's a state limit for affordable housing, the limit of sale price for affordable housing. Right.
So,
That's for 2006.
because that is not affordable for a lot of people
Those are
at that
affordable.
level.
Right. No, that's not affordable. But this is the Chaffa is for low income or moderate income buyers. But that's not, I'm not asking to reach that limit. That's not my request here. My request was that the $25,000 cap was imprinted in 1998, almost 10 years ago. And that's, I think, First Selectman raised a very good question was, is that for a lifetime or it should be reconsidered in a time frame? That's, actually, I agree with that.
You've lived there how long? 10 years?
1994, we moved in. 1995,
So 12 years.
12 years.
About, yeah.
right. But
And
you
you've
don't
spent
want,
the 25,000 already?
right,
You have. You spent more than that.
we spend more than that. Right, but we are not going to claim the money because it's not an issue. We really would like to stay there. That's why we like to see the improvement. We want to invest, not to make money. My definition about investing is to improve where we live. It's not to make a fortune. It's no way you can make a fortune.
The cap ties your hands doing that.
Not just the cap. It's not a cap because this house is a very basic box. If everybody have been into the houses, there's no basement, no garage. And what we own actually is a right to live there. We don't actually own anything. So if you think about that, when we bought the house in 1995, after we move in, we look at a house on Old Country Road, similar house, but they have garage and basement, and with land, more than an acre land. The house was $190,000 at that time. So these houses were now a bargain,
How much did you pay?
$100,000. But we actually just pay for a right to live there. And we don't own the land, and we have to ask for permission to see what we can do here. So here I'm asking because I see people who move out because they couldn't do anything. And when people, they are not planning to stay, they are not going to do any improvements. I think the third reason will be the most important one. If people know their effort can be rewarded, I'm not saying monetary, they can live comfortably, they will be willing to do what they can do to make the place a better place.
I think you could consider possibly, percentage-wise, if you wanted to go with the same growth number like was already recited on improvements, but I think you shouldn't change the cap at the end of the rainbow. I think that should remain constant. I don't think that should change.
And
Your
I don't think you could you'd have to modify all your leases.
your entire document, yeah.
So that 25% is in the lease, so you wouldn't be able to adjust that.
Oh, I know, we would have to contractually change it with all of them.
Right.
That I understand, but a lot of them those houses aren't going to go beyond the the $25,000 number. But I mean, it's an opportunity. But you could change the improvement dollar number, but I think that the percentage on the end sale should remain the same. I think that's the reason of keeping that cap on there is, we all know this, is the affordable housing. Every town is supposed to have a 10%, we're at 1.07%. I mean, so we don't want to go backwards, we need to move forwards or at least remain where we are. And I think if you remove that sale cap at the end, it would be defeating the purpose of why the town purchased these homes originally.
Well, using that as an example, suppose it's 25,000, you wanted to add 10,000 to the cap, so make it 35,000.
Yeah.
Then the 25% that Vinnie is talking about,
Their profit at the end will grow.
that has to be added to that. So
Right,
you
but
are
there's-
increasing the total cap.
Well, no, you're not increasing the total cap, you're increasing the
resale value.
Yes, you are, which I think
Which the
is
resale-
allowable as our economy climbs. That I have no trouble with.
Okay, but which
But it-
increases it reduces the affordability, obviously.
No, because the affordability numbers are also climbing. The requirement numbers for affordability, I keep hanging up on that one, are also climbing, so you're not changing that schedule at all. Yeah, you really are. I think we need advice from the town attorney. I think he would have to read that and lay that out before
I think.
Scooter?
Thank you. I can get a pardon now. I think there, to the extent that you want to retain the affordability component of these houses, as the board did in '98, you can focus on the cap. Or if you wanted to explore an undertaking of modifying the terms of the ground lease, I would think the cost of improvement language might be modified to the extent that a property occupier wanted to improve their structure, they would do that at their own risk, as a property owner would do. If you over improve your house and then you go to sell it, you may not be able to get the value that you put into your house at the end of the day. So if that language were removed, residents like this would be able to do what they want, knowing that at the end of the day, they would be limited on their resale to 25% of the increase in value. That might be a way of addressing this, so, because ultimately, if a person lives here for 30 years, I mean, I could imagine that after 15 or 20 years, they have to come back and redo a kitchen or redo a bathroom, and they're always gonna have this problem of they've hit their cap, you know, and they cannot redo things that after a few decades just need to be done.
Well, they could be redone, but they just can't claim them on their, they've gone to their cap, and that's all they're allowed, too.
So are you saying eliminate the cap?
No. What I'm saying is, I mean, to the extent that this resident, under that analysis, this resident doesn't need your permission then. She could do whatever she wanted to, but she would be limited in what she could claim on resale, 25,000 plus 25%.
Well, technically, that's the way they are right now.
Right.
I think, excuse me, Jim, I think I agree with what Vin just said, because Mrs. Chow just admitted, so to speak, that they've put more than 25,000 in, but right now, their resale is limited to that 25,000.
That's not my question. I'm not asking to limit, because that's why here's like a two-step. First of all, you have to determine what would be the price for the affordable housing, and that is climbed like First SELECTMEN said. It changes every year, so it's not really reasonable to put a cap and say that's the cap. You can improve your house to change your floor or anything, and down the road for the lifetime, 60 years of the lease. So I don't think that's a reasonable cap. I'm not asking, I'm going to claim all the money back. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to ask to have the opportunities and the same right to improve where I live. But here's the thing, if the town would need to do is to determine what would be the price for those affordable housing, and those actually would change yearly. And then you will know when the owner is going to sell the house and what would be
She
the
wants,
price.
excuse me, she wants us to grow that number every year, as
That number
as
does
if-
grow every year. And I think what we need maybe is to have the assessor involved in this, because the resale value of these particular homes is, let's say you don't put any improvements in there, okay? The house has still gone up in value because the 25% is not the 25% of what they paid for. It's 25% of any appreciation in the value of the property. So if the property has doubled or tripled in value, you're going to get 25% of that towards what you can sell it for. And each time one of these homes is sold, it's a very complicated process that the assessor actually, in cooperation with a bank, sets the maximum sale price on. So it's not a case of not being able to get, and Vinny, help me out here, because I'm looking right at the information here on the restrictions on homeowners' right to sell. I don't think any of these homeowners are restricted on how much they can improve their property. They're restricted on how much they can sell it for. And that's in keeping with the affordable housing
Affordable
laws
part.
and the HUD agreements. This goes beyond, this was a HUD situation, if
Yes,
I
it was.
remember, when we first
Yes, it was.
made this, thanks, Jim, when we first took over this military housing property, and we have to make sure it stays in that, and that's why this language is set up. As far as allowing the like I said before, maybe I need to put it in form of a motion now, because I get a sense around the table, we're willing to lift the cap of how much of improvements will be added to the
claimable.
base price of the home, and I'm saying, based on what's been presented to us, a 48.5% increase over the 25,000 would bring that cap up to 37,125. And if people are comfortable with that, I'll make it in the form of a motion. If you're still not comfortable, I won't do that. I think that's a reasonable approach to this at this point.
You mentioned getting an assessment. Has the assessment, these homes been reassessed?
Sure.
What's been the reassessment change?
I can't answer that.
I know for my home, actually, being reassessed to $70,000. But because my house, other, like my next door, I think probably around $48,000.
The increase?
My
No.
increase,
No, the total.
I have increased a lot because we had addition.
It's 70%, I believe.
It's, my house actually increased, it's almost 200%. And that means my tax goes up a lot. So my house is being assessed as the regular house on the market, the increased rate.
Absent
But
the land,
without the land, right.
absent no
Only the house
basement.
itself. But Mr. Gobra mentioned about the resale price because my neighbor who just moved away, who just sold his house, and he paid the same price as we pay $100,000. And because he also spent a lot of money in the house, and he was only because of cap $25,000. So his price was $125,000 and plus the 25% increase. So the price he got was $150,000. However, he told me that if he were allowed to put more money into the house, he would have stayed.
It's
Yeah.
it's
He
the
would have
it's the
stayed there.
improvements
He
cap.
was
Right.
willing to, right.
I-
But because,
cap that moved them out.
right,
Yep.
because he couldn't, it was too small for him.
But just
And
to,
you-
I apologize, just to follow up on what, Mitch, what you were saying, these units were, they're not like your standard affordable housing unit. There's a specific formula, unlike the affordable housing units that we have like at Silverbrook or other places around. This, and I think this actually predates the affordable housing, right? This was done back in the early 90s. And what the town did is said, okay, we're going to purchase this land and we're going to provide affordable units for residents to come to our town. And we're coming up with a specific formula to keep it of an affordable nature. So these units would not be governed by the affordable housing statutes, okay? And what the town has said in section 16 of the lease is that the maximum resale price is restricted to the purchase price. So if you paid $100,000, it would be $100,000 plus any cost of improvements made by the property owner. So if someone put in $100,000, they'd be able to say, okay, I paid $100 plus the $100 of improvements plus 25% of any appreciation in the value. So now, because if the $100,000 improvement has now appreciated the value to $300,000, there would be that $100,000 of appreciation. They could now they'd be capped at selling it at $225,000.
I would want to interrupt you for 1 second. I don't agree. That'd be true based on the original policy that was set up, but based on the motion that was made in 1998, you couldn't improve by you could improve $100,000, but only be able to get 25,000 of it
Claim.
towards the resale value.
Right, but right, and which is going to be an interesting legal battle one day, if ever, when what the town did back in the early 90s is entered into a legal document called a lease with the people like this, and what was done in 98 was a motion of this board, but there was never a modification of the legal document. So what ultimately controls at the end of the day, I'll let a judge be the arbiter of that, but I would think that what the intent was back in 98 is to keep these units affordable in nature. And that's why there was a determination that you were going to cap it at $25,000. So I understand and I appreciate that under the state guidelines, it's $347,000, and I don't disagree with those numbers. However, these units are not governed by those; they're governed by the lease, the leasehold. So use that for guidance if it helps.
And I have, in 1998, actually, I have asked about what type of formula is being used. And I remember that I was in a meeting, and there was no formula, actually. And this decision was made rather quickly. So up to today, I had no idea what kind of formula was being used. So if the formula being used to determine about the price for affordable housing 10 years ago, I do believe that formula should be modified now.
Okay, what's this board's thought?
Well, I think the formula should be modified to, I definitely think the formula should be modified up to today's standards, taking into consideration the affordable housing price of $347,000. I do agree that the cap, if a person wants to live there and spend X amount of dollars to improve the quality of life and still keep it within the guidelines of affordable housing by the state, then they should be allowed to do it.
Thank you, that's my request, actually.
Well, you still have to deal with the fact that this particular lease arrangement did not fall under those affordable housing guidelines. So whatever you do has to be done for the whole, for all. It's not.
That's true, but I think,
I think you have
I
to
think
look at that
as
contract and
any,
update.
sometimes as any ordinance or law, state, federal, whatever, there's times when conditions dictate an upgrading of those particular agreements. And it may be now, after 10, 12 years there, it's now brought to our attention that they're not completely in compliance with the affordable housing regulations that now exist. So that means a modification, a change, a legal change to the way in which we approach the request made of a homeowner of those homes.
Joe, let me respectfully disagree based on the fact that these do not, as Vin just told us, do not fall under the State Affordable Housing Act. We purchased this, I believe, from the United States government under a HUD formula. And quite frankly, there's a couple of situations here. One is, we can't just say, first of all, the town still owns the property. Okay, we're only basically selling, if you will, the home itself and not the property. The town still owns the property. So you can't compare this to a $347,000 home that comes with an acre of land, to start with. Second of all, you know, these homes, when people entered into them, understood when they bought these homes that this is not a moneymaker. Okay, you're allowed a certain amount of profit, but this is not based the same way you and I may buy a home and thinking it being a long-term investment that will rise. The third thing to keep in mind is, we've all done, I think, around this table, improvements to our homes. Okay? Now, you may put in a $25,000 kitchen, but that doesn't mean your home all of a sudden is worth $25,000 more on the open market. It may be worth more. It most certainly is usually worth less, especially if you did that improvement 10 years ago, and now that kitchen's 10 years old. You're certainly not going to get back 100% of your investment when you go to resell. I think the formula that's set up is a fair formula. I think that the $25,000 that was put in was at the time fair, and I'm willing to increase that. But if we start lifting all the caps off, we're going to open up some real problems out there, and I think we're going to have some big problems down the line.
But in respect to your own home, the improvements you make, the improvements you don't make. When you ask for a price that the market is calling for. You don't have a restriction or a cap on how much you can make on it.
But I also didn't buy my home under the same restrictions either. Okay, people had to fall into a certain category to be able to buy these homes. If these homes were open to the open market, they would have been snatched up in 5 seconds, because they were very low priced for the town of Orange, and they still are.
And that was the purpose of
That was
the
the purpose,
Do
exactly.
you feel the assessor then should come into this and give us, if we're not
No,
going to...
that's why it's only
if you're
being
not-
appraised at 70
Right,
and
if
48.
you're not going to go at 347,000,
Well, that includes the
then
land,
the
Joe.
assessor should come down and say, the guidelines of the state are 347, but because they don't have a basement, because the lot sizes are smaller, then he should give us what he
And
thinks is.
besides, they don't own the land, which is in the 347.
The assessor will only tell us what the property is quote-unquote valued at the time somebody requests the sale. Only thing we're being asked on tonight, the request from Ms. Chow is that the $25,000 cap on home improvements be lifted. Okay, I still feel that lifting it really opens us up to some real concerns, and I'm willing to increase it, but I'm certainly not willing to lift it, and that's all that's being asked tonight, and I think that's what we should address.
Well, that's
But I
That's a point well
actually-
taken. Are we talking lifting, lifting means eliminating, or we
That's
talking,
what
or,
that is.
that's right, or are we talking
But-
increasing?
Right, actually, originally I was going to plan to have the cap modified, but I was advised by another person saying you should ask to have the cap lift because it's an unreasonable request, because if you have read a quick claim deed, there's no cap there. So this is a contract. But I'm not asking to make money because
willing to
Mr. Gobert keeps saying, I'm here to ask to make profit. That's not the case here. That's not the case here. I'm just asking to have the right to make home improvements to meet our needs. I'm not asking.
I think the town attorney's already addressed that, though. You have the right to make as
Right.
many improvements as you want.
Mhm.
The only time the 25,000 or whatever comes into play is how much you can get for resale. I don't think there's anything in here, maybe I'm wrong, Vinnie.
No, it doesn't say anything.
I don't think you're restricted. You can do $100,000 worth of improvements if that's what you feel you want to do and you can afford it. But when it comes to reselling that piece of structure, because you're not reselling the property, the structure, the maximum amount that can be shown towards the selling price is 25,000 in improvements.
But here's the question, where that 25,000 comes in? That's my question, what kind of formula? Because in the very beginning, I asked about what would be the price for affordable housing, so we would know how far we can go. And I asked that questions 10 years ago.
Okay. Long enough. If you people want to consider raising the home improvement cap, I will consider it. If you people want to remove the cap, my opinion is I won't consider it. If you want to remove the cap at the end of the day, the sale cap, I won't agree with it. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'd like a motion on the table at this time.
I'll try it. I'll make a motion to increase the amount of improvements from 25,000 to 37,125. And my reasoning is, looking at the median incomes, 48.5%, have gone up from 1995 to 2006 as backup for that. If people don't agree with that, that's fine. That's just what I put on the table as a motion.
Question.
Have to have a second first for discussion purposes.
I'll second it.
Okay, for discussion purposes. Selectman Blake.
Question, if I were to vote in favor of your cap, would you put amendment in there that it be reviewed yearly? Otherwise, we're back to where we are right now.
Well, it can be, Joe, it can be reviewed at any time.
I'm not really too sure of that.
Microphones.
If we do what you say,
If we
Then we're
add that to
obligated-
the amendment, then a
but then-
homeowner doesn't have to come here and do it.
Right.
They automatically know what we've reviewed, and the assessor could give them that price.
But then we're obligated to do it every year. I think it should come up at any time, yeah.
The Attorney Marino is suggesting in addressing Selectman Blake's question, that we tie the motion to the median income increase since 1995, and so that any time somebody moves forward, they'll look at the most recent data of median income in the New Haven Meriden area, which is what was used. And so if it's 3 years from now it's gone down, then it's going to go down. If 3 years from now it goes up, then it goes up. So I'll amend my motion if people are more comfortable with that. That for right now, it would be 37,125, but based on in the future, whatever the HUD data shows for median income for New Haven, Meriden area in relation to 1995.
But you're complicating it now, because
Well-
I could understand increasing the cap, but tying it to median income.
Well, that's how I
No.
came up with it, Tony. That's how I came up with that's how I came up with 37,125 was based on the percentage increase in median income. If you look on Mrs. Chow's letter to us, right in number 2.
Right, I saw that, yeah.
Okay.
But I didn't,
Got
you know, I could see independently raising the cap. I don't know, but about tying it ad infinitum to median income.
Okay, well, I'm flexible either way. I want to move on this somehow.
I would say raise it if you want, with a yearly review if you want, but I wouldn't tie all those other connectors, ligaments to it.
Yearly review, I mean, what's so difficult?
Thank you, Mr. Blake.
Okay, yearly review. I just did.
Okay, very good.
My motion is to increase the cap allowed on these particular homes, and I'm not sure the military housing homes, cap of from $25,000 to $37,125 in improvements with a yearly review. That'd be the motion, which I think is seconded.
Okay, thank you.
No more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Unanimous. Let's see, okay. Number 10, consider an act on safety policy statement for Town of Orange employees. This comes from, I think we talked about it a few months ago. The employees are supposed to have a safety committee. I never knew of it. It came one day when a Mr. David Cohen from the State Department of Workers' Compensation showed up and asked to see our records for it. Hadn't been meetings in at least 4 years. We put a committee together, they've reinstituted. Some of them grumbled and growled a little bit. I spoke with some of them so they understand this is not a requirement of the Town of Orange. This was a requirement of the Workers' Compensation Commission, and they understand that, hence the safety policy statement in front of you. Any discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, but I can explain that we had the committee put in front of us. It worked for a short time. We had problems finding volunteers from the employees that wanted to serve on it, and that's pretty much why it lapsed, but
We didn't give them a choice.
I guess you're better off that way, Jim. I'm okay with it. Motion made.
Is there a second on it? Selectman Nastri, is there any more discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained, unanimous, thank you very much. Number 11, to consider an act on approving a tax incentive for Raymond Connecticut Ventures, Inc., which is the beverage distributors down there on Robinson or Con Air. I'm not exactly sure where they front. Alan Fisher, you all right? This came before us quite a while ago. It's been under study and discussion by the assessor and Attorney Marino. It's been verified and all, and Attorney Marino is going to speak to it if you have any questions on it. The numbers have all been,
Right, based upon review of all the paperwork, based upon discussion with our tax assessor and with the property owner, the property owner would qualify under the tax incentive policy for developers offered by the Town of Orange.
questions? Yes, Selectman Nastri.
This is similar to the policy that's in effect now.
It is the
It is-
policy.
It is the policy.
It is the town's policy for tax incentives. We also have another company has now sent to us for review.
So
A famous
all you're
candy
saying-
maker in the area.
All you're saying is that you want this company to be approved for abatement under this policy?
Right, at the $4 million level.
At the
They
$4
didn't
million?
make the $15 million.
Okay, there's been no changes in those numbers then? The 4
In the
million?
percentages? No.
Been the same numbers, okay. And if the property is reevaluated, it's based on the assessed value
Yes, it is.
This would go forward under the newest.
under the new assessments, but
Yes.
that doesn't change the policy and the percentages?
Correct.
Is that the way? Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm just surprised because we thought, we weren't sure it made it once before, now that reassessment's taken place.
By the chinny chin chin.
Okay, if you say so.
Yes, and for whatever it's worth, we were able to resolve a tax bill before it came, as a result.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this? Paul Grimmer is in the audience, and he is very happy that one of his companies that he had said we had this for, it has happened. Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Anthony did. Yeah, you did. Okay, I thought you did. And there was no more discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? You guys gotta pay attention here. You're slipping on me. Don't, come on now, don't fade yet. Okay. Item number 12 is a waiver. Leslie Pearson is one of our new school nurses. She is at Turkey Hill School, I believe. Lovely lady. I'm thrilled to have her on board. She lives right nearby here. She has children in the school system and all. It works out with her schedule perfectly, and she's glad to be with us.
I move approval.
Thank you. Selectman Nastry, Selectman Blake, all those in favor? Opposed, abstained, unanimous, very good. Tax refunds for the month of March in the amount of $3,564.81.
Move approval in the amount of $3,564.81.
Selectmen Nastry and Blake, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Approved, unanimous. Okay, at this time, we have, is this on there? Well, I may skip them. I know where we are. I may skip them, you two. Because you got it. All right, we'll do committee reports. Sorry, guys, I tried. Capital planning, no report? Go ahead.
Short report.
All right.
We did make a presentation to the Board of Finance, and it was suggested that we relook at it and prioritize the projects, which committee has done. Committee met and last Thursday night, and we've come up with a new list, which I will present to the Board of Finance next Monday. So if anyone wants to attend the Board of Finance meeting, they're welcome to. Thank you.
Very good. Pension.
The pension board met on February 15th. The pension board met on February 15th. I attended the Board of Selectmen meeting and did not attend. According to the minutes, the transition plan was reviewed and everything worked very smoothly. The funds were transferred as they were supposed to be on January 2nd. The company that's handling the investments presented a fourth quarter report on the investment results, and the market value of the investments increased by $475,000 in the last quarter. The board also looked at the defined contribution plan, and additional analysis will be conducted on that, looking into the options being offered to participants. And our next meeting will be held on May 24th. And if you pass that along to Ann, that's my report in writing.
Thank you very much. Good report, and now you have another part to watch over after our earlier action tonight. Noise ordinance, Selectman Cosacrio is not with us tonight, no report. Personnel, Okenquist, Goldblatt, and Zioli, we did not need one, no report. High Plain Community Center renovation, Selectman Blake, no report. School building, Selectman Cosacrio is not with us tonight, however, I can step in on this. They were looking into doing some windows and some work like that, and something has gone awry here, and architect Simeone has requested a meeting with me, and the town attorney and I are meeting with him tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So you know. Other than that, that's the extent of that report. Thank you very much. We will be going into executive session in 1.5 seconds. However, you'll see in your packet of FYI material and all, there is a two sheets actually here. When you all were phone polled on the server at the police department when they asked us to spend $9,000, and everybody did improve that by phone poll one at a time. And if you go to the second sheet, you'll see that when they did go to purchase it, they were able to purchase it for $5,238 as opposed to the $9,000 estimate. So, that was a 4,800, not quite 4,700 and change dollar savings there. That was very well appreciated. You have in front of you the last thing. We will be going into executive session on one item here. It is to discuss and possibly act on the Orange Economic Development Corporation versus DeCarlo and Dahl lawsuit and possible settlement. When we come out, there's possibility of acting on this lawsuit, but I would like invited into this executive session Attorney Marino and Paul Grimmer, who's director of the OEDC, and Alan Fisher, who is the vice chairman, I believe, of OEDC, who worked on negotiations here. Do we have a motion to that?
So made.
Okay, thank you. And we are going into executive session, sorry, Ann, at 10:31. We will take a recess. We will be back here at 10:40. I gave you a little extra. Okay. Executive session at 11:01. And we were in this executive session discussing possible action on Orange Economic Development Corporation versus DeCarlo and Dahl lawsuit, and the possible settlement. In that meeting was Town Council Vin Marino, Paul Grimmer, who is Economic Development Director, Alan Fisher, who is Orange Economic Development Vice Chairman, and the Board of Selectmen. We are now out of executive session. We are in public session, and is there any action to be taken on this matter?
I move that in support of the lawsuit involving the Economic Development Corporation, that the Board of Finance be asked to issue a supplemental budget in the amount of $26,000 to the Economic Development Corporation.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Selectman Blake. Is there any more discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Those opposed? Abstain? It is unanimous. Is there any more business to come before this board?
Motion made to adjourn.
So move at 11:03. Thank you, gentlemen. Happy St. Happy Passover and all the rest.